Hey guys, Mitch here with the AudioDabbler YouTube channel. Today we're going to take a look at Frames by Imaginando. Let's take a look. So this is Frames by Imaginando. It is a frequency modulating granular synthesizer that you can do some really cool stuff with. And the best way to learn a synthesizer for me is to just dive in and do the initialize patch. But before that, there is a few moving parts, and so I want to design a few patches, but I also want to kind of give you an overview of kind of how to navigate the app itself, because it could be a little tricky sometimes as far as what goes with what and everything like that. So if you're already familiar with the app and just want to see the sound design, there'll be a link somewhere to jump to the sound design. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with the app, it's set up in layers. You've got 4 different layers. Each of those layers can have a granular or an oscillator as its sound source. So, I mean, not a bad sounding sine wave, and each of the sine waves, they have different ones you can do. And also, when you're on granular mode, it can actually take an input from a live source, and you can kind of granulize that. So as far as the granular, it requires you import or record some live audio, which I really love that when you click the record button over here, you have options. Like right now, I don't have my iPad set up to any kind of audio interface, but when I do have it connected to my iConnect Audio 4 Plus, it shows me all of the inputs, mono and stereo, which is amazing. A lot of apps don't do that, so kudos to Imaginando for doing that. You can load up a audio source, and now I will say that it has to be, you can import your own audio, but it has to be less than 2 megabit WAV files. But you have some different banks that you can choose from, or you have your system records, or the ones that you have actually imported. And so that is that. Once you have some imported, you can do a few things. Now, as far as the layers go, you have layers over here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you can see they're color coordinated. I'm colorblind, so I really don't ever pay attention to colors. But you got layer 1 here, and you can notice here down at the bottom, so it's kind of divided up into 2 windows here. So layer 1, layer 2, you can see it switches. But you can also unlock it, so that way you can be on layer 1, layer 2, 3, or 4, fooling with any of these pages and be different on the bottom. So that would be very useful if you're dealing with FM stuff, so that you can kind of see how you're modulating the different waveforms with everything. We'll get into that in a little bit. And then so across the top here, on each side, you have the waveform view. You have the control, which gives you all of the control for, everything for the synth engine. You have the envelopes, which they're independent, but they can also be linked together across all 4 synthesizers, or all 4 layers. You have your matrix, which you set up your modulation sources if you want the LFO to affect the level or the pan or whatever, and you have 4 LFOs, the envelope generators, sequence, mod, keyboard, velocity, aftertouch, and then you have all of these across the top. Not everything is included in this matrix, but enough to make some pretty cool sounds. Then you have your modifiers. Now your modifiers and your global are global. Now, as far as the modifiers, you have 4 LFOs for all 4 layers. You don't have 4 individual LFOs per layer, so it's global. Same thing with the arpeggiator, and the same thing with the modes, the FM, delay, reverb. They're a global setting. You have a global filter and global output as well. And so just keep that in mind when you're going through different pages. So you have sort of a layer section, and in each section you have the different individual pages. And I do really like the fact that it's 2 layered, so you can see your waveform, and then you can go down here and mess with stuff, and you can keep your waveform active on top, which is the way I kind of like to do it unless I'm messing with some FM stuff. And then other than that, that is just a good general overview of how you can navigate the app. And so let's actually get in and design a patch or two. And so up at the top here, you've got this little button to revert to the patch to its original state. And so the default patch has nothing in it, no sounds or anything. And so let's kind of start out. I kind of like to whistle. So I'm going to hit the record button and I'm going to whistle. All right. So as far as editing things go, I can select this kind of section here and I can hit the cut. It's going to tell me if it's irreversible. I'm like, all right. So now I've kind of cut out the ends. And if I play it, you can see that it's playing back, and all these little dots here are each individual grain, and that can be controlled by this density. So if you just want one, or if you want a whole bunch, that's the way that can work. Kind of the window is kind of how the playback of that little grain itself is going, and so if I want it to kind of don't want to have any attack or decay in the sound, then I would obviously drag the window up to where it's more square. But sometimes, depending on where you're at, you might get some pops and clicks. So hear that, and then if I bring it down, it's a softer, so you can kind of soften up the sound depending on how you want to, depending on the type of sound you're going for. And then you can loop it, or you can just have it go once, or you can have it loop. And as far as moving the playhead around, you can do that with offset. So it's kind of a cool. And then as far as size goes, you can make it the size. Throw some reverb on that. A little bit of delay. Probably take cutoff on it. Soften it up, kind of get some of that high out. Alright, now default, the envelope 1 is the amp. So I can bring the attack up. I can mess with the curve. Now I will say that all other developers out there pretty much needs to take a hard look at these envelopes. You do, because being able to adjust the attack, adjust the curve, and also over here on this little alt button here, I can adjust the maximum amount that the attack can go. So if I only want to work with a short attack but kind of want to adjust in between, I can do that. But if I want to make that up to, what was that, 10,000? Yeah, 10,000 milliseconds. And I want to max that out, I can go all the way up to 10,000 milliseconds. So for a broader control. And you can do that with all of them, with the decay and the release. That is just very well designed. Very well designed. But if I'm going for a pad, I'm going to want some delay, a soft intro. Alright, so now so we've got that going on pretty good. And this is all with just me whistling. It's already going pretty good. So if we want to maybe put a little wobble in the tune here, then we can go over here to the matrix. Scroll up, we have LFO1, let's see, pitch. Now we can go over here to the modifiers, you can see LFO1. And I really like the visuals you get on some of the stuff. Like sometimes you'll be messing with an LFO and someone who's newly learning synthesizers don't necessarily understand the ebb and flow of everything. And this gives you a good representation of what an LFO looks like. And then what the rate and kind of what the delay does to it, what offsetting does to it. And then it does have a sample and hold, and then it has a sample and hold where it just kind of varies. And it's not just like a sample and hold square, it's more a sample and hold kind of sine. And you can sync them. So that's pretty cool right there. And so now what happens if I take this offset? What if I just wanted to move that offset kind of back and forth like that? So let's kind of start in the middle. Let's go back over here to the matrix. Let's take LFO2. Let's scroll over to the offset. Alright, so now we need to move over here to the LFO2. Triangle wave where it goes back and forth. You know, we haven't even barely even scratched the surface. We're just on one layer here. Just bring it down an octave. Stuck on that last part there, so I think I am going to highlight that. Alright, so there's anything else? So you got your size, your offset, tune, you can spread the serial field out, and then each of the knobs down here you can kind of randomize a little bit. So if you wanted to kind of randomize the density a little bit, you could. Destiny, you're my destiny, my density. If you can name that movie, you're cool. So that's just one layer here. So let's add a different layer. Let's gonna add an oscillator to that. You don't have a lot of control with when you're in oscillator mode, but you do have some. Which is nice. Alright, so let's try to add in, go in here, the global. Now FM mode probably would need its own video, which I may do if anybody's interested in just like the FM mode, because look at all these different modes you have for FM, which is crazy. And so to access that, you need to go over to your control, and now that I've enabled FM, now the FM actually shows up and you can use it. So now what that's doing is the frequency of layer 2 is affecting layer 1. And the way this modifier over here on the global is 4 will affect 3, will affect 2, will affect 1. Let's just stick to the kind of linear phrase here. Of course, you can't see the waveform being affected here, but if I go over to 2, you can see its waveform. And so if I go over to 3, turn the volume down, and then turn the FM up, you can see what. And now this is where it comes in handy, so I can unlock it, go to 2, and you can see what having a sine wave into a sine wave can do. And this is where it can get even more fun. As you go over here to the matrix, you've got FM, so let's take and let LFO3 affect. Actually, let's move that. Let's let envelope generator 2 over here affect the level of FM going on. This is also where we want to kind of move the max of that attack up, so we can get a slower decay. And even make the attack of the that's a crazy weird patch, which granular can get crazy, but it doesn't always have to be crazy. And so let me pull up a local. I did a kalimba, so this is something you can do. So if you'd like a tutorial on like getting that kalimba, I just sampled, literally I have a little thumb piano and I sampled it in, and so this is the sample. I can solo it. So that in itself, with some reverb, some delay, sounds really good to me. But then when you add in, I think I have some FM going on with that little circular thing, and we've got the kalimba pad, kalimba 2, made a little more organic sounding. Made a kick drum. And that's just using the oscillators, and then a little bit of a sample from I don't even know what. Whistle. And as you can see, you can do a whole lot of different crazy weird sounds, or even some, you know, good sounding pads and things like that with frames by Imaginando. So if you don't have it, definitely pick it up. They do have it on the iPad, or you can get it on desktop. I was going to do the demo of this app on desktop, but my MacBook Pro having some issues. I finally did upgrade it, but I haven't tested it out yet. I wanted to get this video done. Yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like, hit the little bell notification if you want to get notified of when I put out more videos. Hopefully I'll get some more videos out in the near future, trying to just navigate life. Guys, hopefully this video wasn't too long, but hopefully it was very informative for you to kind of overview and then just watch me twiddle some knobs and make a weird pad out of a whistle. And I will talk to you later.